Live.
All right, guys. Welcome to the final 2021 edition of the Bulluminati podcast, proudly sponsored by Irish 31 and homefieldapparel.com. Go get your beers and drinks and great food at Irish 31 while wearing your great outfits from Homefield Apparel. Hopefully you guys got some over Christmas and Kwanzaa and Hanukkah, early in late November, early December. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season as we come up against New Year's Eve tomorrow. In fact, right? In about 3 hours, it'll be New Year's Eve. Hopefully you guys had a good year, given everything else kind of going on in the world. It's been a tough 2 years, but we're here, Seth. We made it, just barely. We had a claw scratch and fight our way to get to the end of this year, but we're here, and we've got some news to discuss. I thought it was going to be a relatively quiet dead period until January workouts got started, but here we are, Seth. First of all, how was your Christmas?
Excellent. Yeah. How about yourself?
It was good. Seemed like myself, along with a whole bunch of people that I follow on Twitter, charged themselves with putting together a Barbie dream house that is
I've done that
3 stories.
Yeah, it's with the pool.
Got a pool and everything, and it's still at my in-laws' house because we're going up there tomorrow, and we'll take it home when we leave on Sunday. And I am dreading having to take it apart and then put it back together to get it into the car.
Yeah, so that's tough.
Santa really did not think that through.
No, Santa never thinks of assembly.
He really doesn't.
He just focuses on delivery.
Yeah, a terrible job by Santa. Terrible job. But yeah, let's get into it. Yesterday, some news broke. USF offensive coordinator Charlie Weis Jr. is no longer USF offensive coordinator. He is heading to Oxford, Mississippi to join Lane Kiffin to be Ole Miss's offensive coordinator. Even when you're bad and you win 3 games in 2 years, teams are still poaching your coaches. So I guess something must be going right? Question mark?
Yeah, those guys are reunited. They had some success together. I guess wasn't he kind of one of Lane's like student assistants or graduate assistants when he was at Alabama?
Yep.
And his offensive coordinator at FAU. When Lane got hired, I was kind of surprised he didn't take him if he felt that highly about him, but he came back and snatched him a couple of years later. So he must feel like he's got a good working relationship with him. But I think this may be one of those rare times where it's going to work out well for both sides, I think.
I think you're onto something there, Seth. You and I have, privately and sometimes publicly kind of questioned some of Charlie Weis Jr.'s schemes, play calling, inconsistency in calling plays that may have worked and then just abandoning it almost immediately after it doesn't work one time. That's been the frustrating part over the last 2 years under Charlie Weis Jr. And I think that Tulane game really comes to mind when they ran a couple of speed options, some inventive stuff on that first scoring drive, and then went away from it completely for the rest of the game. And you guys saw the final score. And then I think the biggest indictment of Charlie Weis Jr. was Black Friday. They had no answer for any sort of blitz that Central Florida threw at the Bulls. Double A gap blitz, outside blitzes, C gap blitzes, anything. They had nothing, especially in the passing game, to counteract that. They were all still very long developing routes, forcing Timmy to hold the ball. And
it was long developing or like static to where a guy would run a 5-yard hitch and you're at like the 7-yard line. The guy runs like a 3-yard hitch and just sits against man coverage. Well, yeah, that's going to look cover to the quarterback, and then the other 2 guys run fades. It's not a great concept. So, yeah, there were some times where I thought they did really good stuff, and then other times where they got a little stagnant. I thought they went away from the run game way too much.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how many times McClain threw the ball late in the season. It was a lot, and I think the biggest not necessarily a failing, but I thought the biggest issue was not necessarily the play calling, but I don't think either season the quarterbacks got better as the season went along, and he was also the quarterback's coach. I thought McClain did not look any better than he did early in the season. I thought he looked his best early in the season. And then you look at mistakes like the SMU game. He takes that sack you can't take. You're hoping he gets out of the system. What does he do in the final game of the year? Take sacks you can't take again when you're trying to. So it's the same kind of stuff that you would hope would get coached out of him by the end of the year, and it didn't happen. So, but he's had some success. I think what he was running is good stuff. I don't know how well it fit with what they had here personnel wise. And you saw Jeff Scott mention that on the defense side of the ball when he mentioned what he hired. He really didn't watch what he had personnel, which is still mind blowing.
Like, oh man, it's brutal honesty sometimes.
Yeah. So, but I don't know how well it fits, and then I'm not sure how well it would fit going forward. I think they have an opportunity to get an offense that fits their personnel really well and can really kind of help them take that next step, because they got better this year, but I thought they left some opportunities out there to be even better than they were. So he gets to move on and go, coach in the SEC and get some really good players, and Jeff Scott gets a chance to get a guy in here that will fit his personnel a little bit better. So I think it really is kind of a win-win for both sides here.
Yep. Absolutely. And, it's always, we've talked about this, multiple times through, Jeff Scott's first couple of years. It's always a learning process when you're the guy in charge trying to figure out who's going to fit with who, as a coaching staff. How will these guys gel? It's not just making sure that the players gel and there's, chemistry in there. It's, these are all guys who aspire to be head coaches one day. And there are some, personalities have to gel, schemes have to gel, just, how you prepare has to gel. And, sometimes it just doesn't work out. I think, as you mentioned multiple times already, like this is just a good divorce, separation, mutual parting, where they can still be friends, but it was heading down the wrong path. God bless you for everything you did, Charlie. I don't see this affecting much going forward. I feel like because Jeff Scott said after the Central Florida game that he was going to get through signing day and then evaluate the coaching staff. And it just seems a little too on the nose that it happens right now, where he can still go out and find some people, the bowl games are playing. Like it's a little bit different than when, Tom Allen left, like, I think it was like January, 12th of 2015, like right before, when our workouts are starting and like the season's truly over. You still got some time to find someone. So it's not terrible. The timing's not terrible. Jeff Lebby, who was the OC at Ole Miss, is now the OC for Brett Venables at Oklahoma.
You can thank Lincoln Riley for all this.
Yeah, I mean, God, the domino effect of Texas and Oklahoma is still being felt throughout. But Brett Venables takes Lebby to Oklahoma, and now Lane Kiffin gets his security blanket, I guess, as someone who kind of helped get the Lane train rolling at FAU. And good luck to Charlie, but we're moving on. We're moving upward, hopefully. I still think this is still a 6-win team in 2022. They really need to nail this hire, which is, and we will get to that. But I think the first thing that we kind of need to discuss is in-house options. Will Turner at Bulls 24/7 had, his version 1.0 of the hot board, and there were a couple of in-house options. coach, Alan Modridge, offensive line coach, and then wide receivers coach Bobby Bentley are on that list. I'm not inspired by either one of them. I'm not inspired by the in-house promotion. I'll be perfectly honest here, Seth. What are your thoughts on an in-house promotion, which means are you just going to do another in-house promotion for quarterbacks coach? Does that mean BJ Daniels is now the quarterback coach? Where do you see all that kind of fitting in? Because it seems like if you're going to go in-house with an OC, then why would you bring someone else from the outside? Why not just do the reverse?
Yeah, to me, I think both those guys are really good coaches. I don't know about Coach Mo. I know that he's really well respected by coaches all around the state, and I think Willie kind of mentioned that in his piece. But he is, like, especially on the trail, he's the guy that'll sit and talk football with coaches for an hour and just sit at the school and talk. So I know I don't know if he's ever called plays though. Bentley, he was a guy. What would be interesting? I'm pretty sure this is correct, but I know he hasn't coached it in college, but he was the head coach at Burns High School when they were like top 10 in the country for like 4 or 5 years in a row. I believe he was the head coach. They had really good quarterbacks, and he was the quarterbacks coach, and he was really well known for developing quarterbacks. He used to give clinics around the country. I saw him speak at like a Nike or Glazer coaches clinic way back in the day, talking about how they develop their quarterbacks. So he could be a guy you move over if you do want to go internal, then hire somebody else for receiver. And I'm sure he called plays at that level. I don't know if he's called plays at the college level or not, but he's got a good mind for it. I think him and Coach Mo are both really good coaches. They have good coaches on the offensive staff, but I just think this staff could use some new ideas on the offensive side of the ball. And I don't think it would be a bad idea to go out and get some different ideas. Maybe somebody that's done this and has some different ideas than Jeff Scott, and then you can kind of meld them together. But, the offense ended up doing a decent job scoring and taking advantage of short fields when the defense gave them some short fields. And the special team scored some touchdowns. So you kind of look towards the end of the year and you look at some of the point totals. It's a little deceptive. When you look at the offense for the whole season, and what I looked at when I was looking at potential hires is yards per play. USF was 110th in the country in yards per play on offense. So is that something you want to stay in house with and just hope for that natural progression? Maybe, but I think going outside it presents a good opportunity for you to shake things up a little bit schematically and kind of get a system that really fits your players really, really well.
Yeah, I agree. And as we kind of transition to our own hot board, you mentioned Bobby Bentley coaching at Burns High School in South Carolina. If I'm not mistaken, let me make sure the timeline adds up. I don't want to say something that's stupid. But
he was there. They were there at the same time.
Okay, so
at one point. I'm not sure if he was the
he was definitely there,
but he was there.
No, he was definitely there then. Okay, yep. So, let's go to. Do you want to start? I guess number one on our hot board.
Yeah, let's go. Let's start with. I'm going to go ahead and first of all, let's keep that. Let's get rid of that one. We don't need to share everything, but let's show. So this is the official TDS hot board. TM. And these are number one guy, and this is the guy.
These are guys that I want to be clear. These are guys that we want.
Yeah, this is
not source. This is not source whatsoever. These are guys looking at who could fit right now for us and what makes sense and who are potential gets that we would be excited about going forward. I want to be perfectly clear on that. This is not
sourced.
I will make sure that if we do some sources, you guys will know that these are source candidates, but these are the ones that we would like to see.
This was a lot of looking at stuff. This first one, I think we're starting to get a fervor for it. The first one that we're going to put up there, this is a guy we've talked about previously on the podcast. You've been listening for a while as being someone that they should go get some ideas from. But now that you got an opening, I think Willie Corn has got to be the first call. I said as much on Twitter as soon as the Weis news came out. Yep. That's my first call. Call Willie Corn. I'm on the
see what he's
train.
Up to.
Huh?
Yeah, I mean, just to see what he's up to. And as I was teasing it, Bobby Bentley was the head coach at Burns High School for about 11 years. His final couple of years at Burns High School, guess whose quarterback was?
Willie Corn.
Willie Corn.
Hey, and guess who was on staff when Willie Corn went to Clemson?
Jeff Scott.
He was.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
it seems pretty seamless here, folks.
It would be if Jeff Scott wants to hire somebody he knows, somebody's familiar with. This would be an interesting one, and he brings in a totally different offense. If you haven't watched Coastal Carolina, they're kind of like a modern spread triple option. They use multiple backs. I think it would fit USF's personnel really well.
Yes.
But they don't. It's not just. It's not an option passing attack. They have some pro style concepts in the passing game. They've taken a guy that was athletic and a pretty good thrower in Grayson McCall and turned him into a potential NFL player. He could probably do really well with Timmy McClain, and he's coached quarterbacks and been with this staff for a long time. So he's been in this offense for a long, long time. I believe he played for them at North Greenville in Division II, transitioned on the coaching staff, and has been with them since. So why would he? I know we've seen a lot of why would he want to come? He's already co-offensive coordinator. Coastal's better. He makes $215,000 a year. Charlie Weis made $350,000. And he doesn't call. I don't know if he calls all the plays. He's kind of a co-coordinator, so he could be the coordinator number one by himself, run the show. Everything would be on him if he came to USF. So that would be my number one.
Yep.
How do you feel about Mr. Corn?
I love it. I mean, said it on Twitter, and I asked you your thoughts, and it was, I mean, it seems like the obvious smart thing to do. And I know that flies in the face of literally the entire history of the University of South Florida, but I think Jeff Scott, I think he understands the importance of this hire, and there had been, some scuttlebutt. I'll say scuttlebutt about Jeff kind of meddling in the offensive game plans and not really letting Charlie cook maybe a little bit. But this is such the obvious hire, right? This is just a good, solid idea. And, praying for redemption and saying he doesn't call the plays that Jamie Chadwell does. And, Willie and Jamie Chadwell have been together for a long time.
Yeah, he knows the offense really well. Yeah, I think it's just really the style of play I think fits USF's roster really, really well.
They were at North Greenville together. They were at Charleston Southern together, and then went to Coastal together. Like Jamie brought Willie Corn over from Charleston Southern as well. But they know each other inside and out. I think this is a really good opportunity for Willie Corn to kind of get his name. I think for him, his obvious hesitation is, I mean, I would be going to a program that's won 3 games in 2 years. Do I really want to ruin my stock? Where it's quite possibly hasn't been higher than it is right now. Right. So he's got is the extra maybe $150,000, but a better G5 conference, is that worth the risk of, man, what if I flame out?
Yeah, but guys like that always want to take that next step. So if it is like, if he truly has no input on the play calling, then you think you'd want to get somewhere where he does call the plays and he could do that. I think he's a good possibility. The next one is one that so these first two have both been bandied about on Twitter quite a bit. This next one is the prodigal son returning. You've seen this one a lot. You know a little bit more about his career than I do. I know he he was the co-OC when they first got to Houston, and then he's been the running backs coach the last 2 years. Seems like a demotion, but I have not been following along. I know he's called plays in the past. Obviously, some connections with the university.
So obviously, I mean, he was the GOAT before. Yeah. He was the GOAT before the GOAT, and I love Markwell Blackwell. He was, everybody has a quarterback that they came into. Who was the quarterback you watched at Florida when you were growing up that kind of got you hooked?
When I was a little kid?
Yeah, like it was your guy. Danny Werfel. All right. And Markwell Blackwell was that guy for me. There are kids right now that Quentin Flowers was that person. Feel really bad for whoever has Bobby Eveld as their selection. Tough stuff for you guys, but it could be BJ Daniels. Markwell Blackwell for a lot of the USF fans who grew up going to games, who saw what this program could be. That's who he is. And it's interesting how he was the co-OC and quarterbacks coach at Houston in 2019, and then now he's just been the running backs coach. I know Dana is a pretty hands-on kind of guy when it comes to that sort of stuff, so maybe that has something to do with it. I think obviously the fans would love it. Is it the right hire? I don't know. And it's about who is the right hire. He was at USF, when Willie first was on staff. It was his first year. He was a quarterbacks coach. I mean, was at Western Kentucky. I mean, there's stuff. I think, man, if I'm looking right, I think the last time he called plays was in 2006 at Freedom.
I think he called some plays at Lakewood as well.
Okay, yep. So 14.
And then whether or not he called plays or Holgerson called the plays at Houston, probably likely Holgerson did, right? So
right.
So that was one that I think I've seen thrown around. I don't know if that would be the best way to go or not. But just wanted to throw him up there and talk about it. Next one is a guy I've liked for the last couple of years. His offense last year they had a shortened season, but his offense last year was one of the top in the country in a bunch of advanced metrics. They ended up being all right this year with a slow start when they had to play a bunch of games out of conference. Andrew Souter, offensive coordinator at Kent State. If you watch them play, they play really fast. They ended up, I think, where they end up 14th in the country in yards per play this year. And that's with playing like Texas A&M, and I think they played Iowa. So they played a couple of really good defenses out of conference. Still ended up 14th in the country in yards per play. Really up-tempo spread. He's offensive coordinator. He coaches quarterbacks and tight ends right now. So he fits your quarterback coach need as well. And he only makes $140,000. So you could give him a nice pay increase to get him down. They run 77.6 plays per game. USF ran 72 last year. So they're really fast. Flash fast, that's correct. That's what they like to say. So they'll run the quarterback. A lot of these, I think, when I was looking, I wanted to get guys that I knew would run the quarterback a little bit too. I think that's got to be a part of whoever the coach is next.
Right.
That's got to be a part of the offense is the quarterback run game. Doesn't have to be a crutch, but it has to be a feature, I think. And they did that. Dustin Crum was a guy that ran the ball a good bit and also was really good through the air.
So Kent State went for 7-7 this year. Dustin Crum, who's their starting quarterback, rushed the ball 161 times for 703 yards, scored 12 touchdowns on the ground, threw for another 20 through the air, threw for over 3,000 yards, only 6 interceptions, 64% completion percentage. And then they had a 1,200-yard rusher, an 800-yard rusher, and then they had a 1,200-yard receiver, 699 receiver, and 620 receiver. So, like, the offense is pretty damn explosive. here's the thing that USF fans are going to have to get over, and it's a small, minor thing. It's just a very, very minor thing. Seth, where was he in 2012, 2013? Do you happen to know?
Oh, no. I think I know, but I'll go ahead and scroll for you. Oh, no. Eastern Illinois.
Okay, and he was the wide receivers coach. Okay. So I know who the offensive coordinator was at Eastern Illinois in 2012 and 2013. He has USF ties. It was Sterling Gilbert.
Oh,
Sterling. No. So kind of on the Dino Babers, coaching tree, the Sterling Gilbert coaching tree. So that's what we would have to get over with Andrew. And Sterling is looking for a job here. So I don't know. I don't want to possibly open the door that he comes in and steals another paycheck from USF as a GA, as an intern, as literally anything associated with the university. But Andrew Souter would be a good choice.
I think
based on his own merits, Andrew Souter would be a good choice. But
I would say think of him not as a Sterling Gilbert guy. He is and now this is a whole other can of worms, but he's more of a Bryles disciple in terms of, I think, scheme. He played at Baylor, was like a student assistant there, and then he went on to his coaching career after that. So that's a whole other can of worms. But I think USF people would rather have that than Sterling Gilbert, maybe. So.
I think people are more forgiving, about the Baylor situation than they would ever be about Sterling Gilbert ever being associated with the university again. And that just says a whole bunch about the USF fan base. And I love you guys, but I think I think you guys would all agree that you would rather have a Bryles disciple over having anyone associated with Sterling Gilbert. I don't think this is not an argument there.
This is not a Sterling Gilbert. This guy's on his own merit. They've been really good. Last year, in terms of EPA, last year they were the number one offense in the country over Alabama. Now they played a limited schedule, but they were really good last year, and they were pretty good this year. All right, here's another one. He was on my list. This is maybe freezing cold takes exposed here. Brennan Marion was on my list. He's a receivers coach at Pitt. It looks like he's going to be the receivers coach at Texas. Pitt, for some reason, did not make him the interim OC in their bowl game. He has been an offensive play caller before, famous for the go-go offense he ran at Howard and William & Mary. Used two backs. I think that fits USF's personnel. Using more than one back would be nice. Yeah. I couldn't find his salary information. It looks like he might be going to Texas, but maybe there was news today that if he is going to Texas, that he would have turned down a G5 offensive coordinator opportunity. Maybe I'm all over this, but I think that he would have been a good hire, but it looks like he might be off the board already. So
yeah, and you know what is a solid thing for three of the four guys that we have kind of touched on, Willie Korn, Brennan Marion, and Andrew Souter, is they get the running backs involved heavily. Either they get multiple running backs involved and on the field, and that was the big thing that we had talked about all of the time under Charlie Weis Jr. Just a steadfast refusal to put any two of the three very talented running backs on this roster on the field at the exact same time. And it was frustrating as all get out because when you have that much talent in a running back room, you want to get them on the field and sometimes even together. I think a backfield of Timmy, Jaron Mangum, and then changing out Kelly Joyner and Brian Battie, and then even having Brian and Kelly on at the same time to run just, speed options to either side. It just opens up a whole can of worms that, USF really didn't touch on. I think it really could have opened up the offense a little bit more.
I think they would have been just fine this year, going three receivers, two backs. a ton. They could have been really, really good that way. We didn't really see that ever. Maybe once or twice. Is this job attractive? I think so. Just because you do have some players, you do have some good pieces of the skill positions, and you can get paid more than you're getting paid at all these other pay.
Right.
They're paying $350, which is pretty good money at the G5 level. And you can come in and call plays. And I mean, you just saw Charlie Weis call plays for 2 years with, differing degrees of success, and he just got hired by Ole Miss to be their offensive coordinator. Now, he had a pre-existing relationship, but this is a job you get on TV a lot. I think it's a good gig, especially with the personnel you have coming back at the skill position. Jimmy Horn is one of the best skill position players in the state of Florida.
Yeah, 100%.
He could start at every school in the state of Florida. So that's attractive to me.
Yeah.
All right, Brendan Marion.
I just wanted to bring this up real quick. So Jeff Scott's assistant coaching pool is $3.6 million. Now, this is the original contract that he signed in 2019. There's some scuttlebutt that he may have already signed an extension. I haven't gotten that yet. I've requested that information in early December. It is December 30th. I have yet to receive that information quite yet. So just based off the $3.6 million, it's like up $50,000 from last year. So it's like, nothing, but that extra $50K could help.
Yes. All right. Next guy up. Jason, I think that helps. It's not necessary, but I do think it helps. For instance, like I thought that. So here's Jason's comment for everybody. The field of the new OC is also quarterback coach. He should have been a QB when he played. I think he needs to have been a quarterback or have coached a position before with some degree of success for a sustained period of time. I just think at that position, like the RPO stuff with Timmy, like it looks great on the board and it all makes sense, but it's different if you've been back there and you understand how this is going to look to the player, understanding the kind of situation. It does help you kind of understand, okay, maybe I need to just call more run plays instead of just calling RPOs. Take a little bit of this burden off. Because on the board, it all looks good. You have all the answers. But with some playing experience, you understand, okay, this maybe I'm asking too much of the guy. But I don't think it's necessary, but I think it is helpful. So if you get a guy, like imagine a guy that played, that was like a 4-star, quarterback and went to an ACC program and played there. That'd be interesting. I think he'd probably be helpful. Like a Willie Corn type guy would be pretty good. All right, here's the next guy. These are all guys I think are possibly gettable. This one's borderline. Barry Lenny Jr. He's been the offensive coordinator's quarterbacks coach at UTSA. They've been pretty decent on offense the last few years, and I think they're run focused, which to me is you got to have somebody that's bringing a good running game here that allows you to use multiple backs. They do that at UTSA. It's Sincere McCormick, who was a really good back. Their quarterback ran for a decent number of yards as well. And they were able to throw the ball with some success. So they had a pretty well-rounded offense. He was previously at Arkansas, coached tight ends there, but he's been coaching quarterbacks at UTSA. He gets paid $255,000 a year, so you could give him a raise. But I think he might be in a pretty good position, be pretty happy where he's at, already calling plays, being the associate head coach. But you could offer him a raise, and their offense was pretty decent last year. They were kind of at the bottom of this group of guys they were 45th, but if you watched them play in yards per play at 6.1, again, USF was at 5.01, 110th in the country. He's a guy I think that would help get the ball in the run game for the guys that are in the run game, get the ball in their hands. And I think that will be important for USF's success going forward, having somebody that can coach the run game. So he's a guy I like. He's not at the top of my list, but and I don't know how gettable he is, but he's done a pretty good job at UTSA the last couple of years.
And to say something for him. He kind of tends to stay at one place for quite a while.
And
he hasn't really bounced around since 2005.
The reason I brought him up is because he previously, before this, was at Arkansas with Chad Morris. So I know that's a well that Jeff Scott's dipped into previously, the Chad Morris well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know as much on these guys for recruiting. I know a couple of I've heard stuff on a couple, like Ferd Marion's a pretty good recruiter. But these are most of these guys are going to be lower level guys. There'll be guys coming up I can speak to more about their recruiting, just because of I'm more familiar with them. But it's hard to say exactly on the lower level guys. But here's another one. So these are getting to the ones that are maybe the next couple are guys that aren't calling plays, but I think are in pretty good offenses. And one maybe kind of a shadow offensive coordinator, like a ghostwriter of the offensive coordinator here. And that is Tennessee's quarterback coach, Joey Halsey, or Halsley rather. If you've been watching Tennessee, I mean, it's the Heupel offense, the Baylor, the Bryles style offense with that tempo and that, I mean, if you watch Tennessee at all this year, you watch today's Music City Bowl.
Right.
You saw it in full force.
They'll
get the quarterback involved in the run game. He was the quarterback coach at Central Florida the previous year with Heupel.
2020,
That came to Tennessee with him. He's been with Heupel basically his entire coaching career. So that would be, kind of would he leave Heupel? Probably not, but to be a coordinator and to call the plays, maybe he would. He gets paid, actually, he already gets paid $350,000 to be the quarterback's coach. So it would really have to be, you're really selling him on calling plays. I don't think it's likely, but he would be a guy I reached out to if some of the other guys we already mentioned said no. They are 20th in the country in yards per play. We all know kind of that offense, very explosive. And then, fun to watch. Really focused. They can run the ball too. It's not just a throw, and they can run the ball. Really good offense. I think it's a good scheme. You can make it fit, but I think he's probably a little further down.
Yeah. What's the Tennessee quarterback?
Hendon Hooker.
Hendon Hooker. I mean,
he's improved a ton since if you watched him at Virginia Tech last year.
Dude's a freaking guy, man.
And watch him now. Yeah, he's gotten a lot better.
5 tutties today.
Yeah, so this guy, he's a pretty good coach, I think. So he would be interesting. He also coaches quarterbacks, he would just slide right in. That would be an interesting one. Here's another one that I think is really highly unlikely, but we're down the list here a little bit now. And this is this is a guy that's a really good recruiter. But he doesn't get paid a ton. Have you ever even heard of this guy? Cory Dennis. He's the Ohio State quarterbacks coach.
Can't tell you that I have.
So they have
man. Sorry. I just reading up on him. His father-in-law is Urban Meyer.
Well, there you go. He knows the state of Florida like the back of his hand.
I like the back of that girl's butt. Oh.
Well, that's Urban. He's a good man, Cory Dennis. So he's been there. He was a quality control coach. He's been the quarterback's coach since the last 2 seasons. Pretty good player. I think if you could steal somebody off this staff offensively, like I was thinking of Brian Hartline, but he's an Ohio State guy through and through. If you know anything about Urban, he's a mercenary. So maybe Cory, maybe that's something that's rubbed off on him. Looks like his hometown is in Alabama. So maybe he wants to get back down south. But he's a guy that's a really good recruiter. I don't think they would let him walk. They'd probably up his pay if that's what it took. Brought in a couple of 5-star quarterbacks. He was their main recruiter for that. But their offense has been just awesome the last few years once he's been there. He doesn't call plays, obviously, but he coaches the quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. Would be interesting just to bring in. I don't think it'll happen, but that's just a nice, interesting name to throw out there. Because he's a guy I hadn't heard of, and he only makes $300K, which is not a ton for the quarterback's coach at Ohio State. I thought he'd make more, so I kind of threw him out there really because of that. This next name is one that I like that I haven't really heard much about previously, but just going through and kind of looking at stats live for this past season and just trying to see, okay, who's pretty good at doing kind of both. And then looking through his bio, this guy was really good. He coached at the 1AA level, and then got hired at the school he's at now and has had really good offenses while he's been there. And that is Tim. I'm going to say Cramsey. It could be Cramsey. He's the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach at Marshall. So Marshall had a top 10 rusher individually this year. They had the number 9 rusher in the NCAA and the number 14 passer in the NCAA this year. Grant Wells was 14th in passing yards per game, I believe, and they had a running back that was 9th in rushing yards per game or total rushing yards for the season. So he runs the ball. They don't use a ton of tempo. I think they were kind of more towards the bottom of the pack in tempo. Yeah, they're about this, not much, maybe a play or half a play less than USF, so not crazy fast. They were 34th in yards per play last year. But they've had some pretty good offenses there, and he's a guy that makes $210,000, that's had success as an offensive coordinator at multiple levels, has been calling plays for a long time. He'd be kind of like the Shoop hire, I think. A guy that's had success, nothing crazy flashy, just comes in and gives you a lot of competence right off the bat. So he'd be like the Shoop of this group, I think.
I don't mind it. I mean, we're getting close to the bottom of the barrel, if we're being honest.
These are kind of in order of preference for me. Corn is at the top for me. I like the guy from Kent State up at the top. Marion's out. But we're getting to the very bottom here, and this is one that, everybody loves a good homecoming.
No, not everyone.
Everyone loves a good homecoming.
No, not everyone.
You got a guy that's making $120,000.
Too much. He's already getting paid too much.
Whose offense is 16th in yards per play in the country this last year.
But before you say, I will say he was a fantastic recruiter in the Bay Area. He was very good at poaching other schools' kids.
Ever heard of this guy? Robert
Dick Weiner.
Bobby Weiner. He's at Toledo. They had a really good offense the last couple of years. This year, they were, like I said, they were 15th or 16th in yards per play. Pretty good. Didn't have the best record this year. I'm not sure exactly what they run. I watch a lot of Toledo. I'm assuming he's a spread guy. I think he was kind of spreadish guy when he was at Plant. Obviously, a lot of people in the Bay Area know his name from that time. He's had some success at the college level. He had a lot of success at the high school level. I think everyone's pretty familiar with that. By hook or by crook.
Mostly by crook.
So that's the name just to throw out there at the end.
You gotta really wonder, I mean, he
coaches quarterbacks.
He has screwed so many high school coaches in the Bay Area.
That is an interesting wrinkle.
From recruiting their best players to Plant. Like, do they really want to send their next kid to play for Robert Weiner?
That is an interesting wrinkle. But I think he's getting guys up to Toledo though. So
I don't know.
I believe he is. Not to burst your bubble here. He was the second-ranked recruiter in the MAC. On 24/7, I think I saw somewhere else he was pretty highly rated. So, he and his longtime girlfriend Tanya Thomas have homes in Toledo and Tampa. So there you go.
Good for him.
So that's one that's the dark horse.
USF fans know Robert Weiner has already been a USF coach before.
Yeah, it was just
for about 48 hours.
The return.
I don't like it, man. I don't know. There's just something about playing high school that I can't like. I can't do it. I can't do it. I would rather have Earl Garcia running the show from Hillsborough than ever have anything to be associated with Robert Weiner. And by all accounts, I know multiple people who know him and they love him. But the people that love him are also Jesuit graduates, and Jesuit grads literally never talk crap about any other Jesuit grad, literally ever. I think it's in the rule. I think it's one of the prayers that they say at chapel every day. So, but I can't do it, man. I can't.
Would you like a fun Robert Weiner story?
Always.
He was coaching baseball at Crystal River High School. He applied. He wanted to be the football coach there. They said, no, we're good. He went down to Plant. The rest is history. Crystal River's never won a thing. There you go.
Tough stuff.
Good administration up there in Crystal River.
Yeah.
All right, so, yeah, I to recap here, I'll throw this up here to recap. Willie Corn has been on my mind for a few months now. These are names we went over. Marco Blackwell, we also mentioned him, but Corn, I think, is the number one guy. This is kind of my list in order of preference. But I think you go out and make Corn say no to you.
Right.
The fan base is getting corny. We've got a bunch of potential corn addicts.
Yeah. Big
fan base.
You know, I know a lot of TikTok users that are on this here podcast listening to us. They're big corn stars, and they just want another corn star. They just want to watch a corn star, you know, and that's really what it comes down to. And I think Willie is the corn star that we want and the corn star that we need.
I think so. He would have been, as soon as, you know, I got the message from Charlie. Congrats, Charlie. Willie, what's up?
Right.
I'm on the phone with him immediately. I think that the Kent State guy would be a really interesting one as well. Their offense, he can fit it to what USF has personnel wise. And you mentioned how they spread the ball around and still had a big number.
Right.
I mean, I was like a 1,200-yard rusher and then an 800-yard rusher.
And then the quarterback ran for 7.
Oh, watch out.
Sir.
Dan, we might put you in timeout for a couple of minutes.
Sir. Yeah, I really think it's Willie Corn. And there's one guy that we haven't mentioned that I believe was mentioned on Will's hot board. Now, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, if we struck out on Willie and maybe Souter. But, I mean, Chad Morris is just coaching high school football. And it's not like he forgot how to coach. Now, you said something in Slack that was pretty eye-opening, that his team's yards per play have not been great.
He hasn't
since
had one
like 2013.
Yeah, so I went and looked because somebody asked about Chad Morris right after and somebody immediately said no. I can't. And then I wanted to look and see because I was like, I don't think he's been that great. Now there's some extenuating circumstances. He took over an Arkansas team that was bad, but he's also the first head coach to never win a conference game in Arkansas history. And he took over an SMU team that was bad. But his last SMU team was 27th in yards per play in the country. That is the only team he's had since 2013, and this includes his last year at Clemson, where they were 89th in yards per play in 2014 with some dudes on that team. They were 89th in yards per play. Since including the 2014 season till now, that 2017 SMU team is the only offense he's had in terms of yards per play that is above average, above 65th in the country. Every other offense he's had has been below average in terms of yards per play. Auburn, his best one was Auburn last year, and they were 69th.
Yeah, and got Gus fired, so
so I don't, and so there is some circumstances he was with rebuilding programs, and he got SMU. He brought SMU like from it was like 90s, 80s, 27. Like, you know, it was like 90, 70, 27. So, you know, would he be good? I don't know. He wouldn't be an inspired hire, I don't think either. He might be kind of a safer hire, but he's had success in the past, but not a ton recently. So,
yeah, I agree. I figured, you know, we bring him up because there is the obvious connection with Jeff Scott. I think it'd be an interesting dynamic of having kind of the roles reversed a little bit.
Yeah.
So that'd be an interesting kind of situation. I agree. I just want to present the options. How does it not see?
Yeah, I don't know. Previous relationships.
It's all, you know. It's never about what you do. It's always about who you know, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean,
I was a little mind boggled myself, but Scott, it happens sometimes, you know.
I don't think a lot of people are you know, crying over Charlie leaving, so it's really not it's not a big deal. Timeline for hire, definitely before signing day or the second signing period. I think that's probably safe to say.
When are they? Do you know when they're back on campus? I know there's some places in the state it's like January 4th they come back.
Yeah, so I think that first Monday is the 3rd.
Yeah.
I would assume it's either right around that or the 10th, because I know like USF, like they do. Sometimes they like, it's like you go for a week and then you have like MLK Day. So I'm looking up right now when they actually get
spring classes begin January 10th.
You have a week and then you get MLK Day. So there it is.
So they got some more time.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that would probably, you want to have a guy in place by the time the players get back.
For sure.
I think. Yeah. I don't think you're the only one. Yeah, I think this is I think 10th. There you go. So they'll be back the 10th. So I think this is going to be one of those, like what did Michael Scott say? I think it was Michael Scott. You know, every time somebody says it was a mutual breakup, one of them's lying, but in this case it's true.
Right. Yeah,
and that's kind of every time they say it's a win-win, somebody's lying, but in this case it might be true.
Yeah,
you get some new blood in here. He gets to go into SEC job. Win-win.
Probably get a real nice pay raise too. So good for him.
Yeah,
go. You know what? Go get that bag, Charlie. I'm not even mad at you.
Win-win-win for his agent gets a third one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we just wanted to kind of come on and kind of break down, you know, the potential hot board and really put it out into the ether that Willie Korn is the guy. But I want to, you know, if it's not Willie Korn, unless they just come out of left field or do an internal hire, I think, unless it's just something stupid, give him a shot.
Let's not get because I think everyone here, I think everyone in this chat would be excited if it was Willie Korn. Well, that's also, you know, I think I said it on Twitter as soon as the move was made, because I'm a big fan and I think it would fit. But nobody at USF has ever, I don't think, uttered the two words together, Willie Korn, to anybody as far as we know. So this is kind of all just, you know, we're kind of building this all up, and let's not be like, oh, they could have had Willie Korn when they hired somebody else.
Yeah,
you know,
maybe they couldn't have. So
they may have never talked to him, where he may have said, guys, I'm good. I got Grayson McCall coming back. They're going to give me a raise. You know, you never know, but he would be cool. It would be cool. that would be a nice guy to pick, and it all seems to fit so
well. It'd be pretty cool if you did.
Yeah.
So I mean,
just pester Willie Corn on Twitter until he says yes.
Yeah, because it works for recruits, it must work for grown adults as well.
Yeah. Don't tweet at coaches now.
Yeah.
Don't tweet at recruits.
Is it time to tweet at coaches? No. The answer is always no. No. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of hop on and give our thoughts on the potential offensive coordinator hire, and really want to kind of wrap up this show this year and thank everyone for joining us this year. It's been a fun experience and experiment to do these podcasts live. It's a little terrifying because Seth, you can attest to this. The 2 or 3 years that you did this before we did things live, there were a lot of stuff that we would have to cut out because, I don't think we're allowed to say that, or we make a joke that's probably not. It's not safe for work, and then it's not safe for us just publicly, making fun of someone. Interesting. Eye emoji indeed, Daniel Chapman. Oh, I can't wait. We got to get the FlightAware going. We need some corn here. We need to get all of this going. Just in case. And I think, maybe we'll start pre-writing the Willie Corn hire just to put it out into the ether, and hopefully good things happen. But again, I really appreciate everyone interacting with us this year. It's been another trying year for USF football, but we survived yet again.
It's moving in the right direction.
We are moving in the right direction. That is for certain. You got to hit this higher here, Jeff. You really got to hit it, and just hire Willie Corn. I mean,
come on.
If I was Jeff Scott, I would just simply hire Willie Corn. Like, what's the big deal?
I think we should get a commission if this hire happens, because
seriously,
Willie's agent didn't do anything.
Cut the check, man. Cut the check, Willie.
You got that corn money with a backwards R.
All right. For Seth and Nathan, thank you again for listening to a full year of the Bulluminati podcast, proudly presented by Irish 31 and Home Field Apparel. First-time users at Home Field, you can still use the code word Daily Stampede for 15% off your first order site-wide. Go get them. The gray USF Retro Bowl hoodies are back in stock, so go get them and go get some shirts. We'll be back in the new year to unless they do something stupid and Friday at 4:45 this fucking hire, we're done for the year. So we'll talk to you guys in 2022. Be safe. Be smart. Do not drink and drive. Get an Uber this weekend. Don't be stupid, please. We want to have you guys here back with us in January. If you drink responsibly. Have fun. Be safe. Wash your hands. Go Bulls.
Don't handle any fireworks. That's JPP.